I am excited, and I had to get him on the show to talk to us because he's such a great friend and what he's doing, and we're so excited to have him on here. But from the 4th Congressional District, Congressman Ron Estes hanging out with us right now. Congressman, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. It's great to get you on here this morning. I really appreciate that for the final voice of reason early in the morning. This is kind of fun.
Well, this is kind of great. I knew with it being the last one you were on, I wanted to get on it. And you've done such a good job hosting every morning and talking about so many great things that are going on and trying to get the facts out about what's really happening. And so I wanted to call in and congratulate you for your work and wish you best wishes for your new gig, I guess.
Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate that. We're looking forward, and we'll get you on in the middle of the day, so then you can take a lunch break sometimes from the craziness in D.C. and get you on from there on now. But there's a lot going on in D.C. right now, and right now it doesn't seem like it's really issue-driven, but more drama-driven. I'm starting to feel like this is the episode of our Days of Our Lives every day when we hear statements of like the anti-Semitism coming from certain congresswomen coming from our Washington, D.C. area that we're not actually really getting to actually debate topical issues in D.C. right now, are we?
That's real. You're right. You hit right on the head in terms of what's going on. It's more political theater and what sounds good, pandering to their base. And so we're having lots of hearings, lots of investigations, and, at the end of the day, we're not passing much legislation, particularly not stuff that's useful. Mm-hmm. And then you have all sorts of negative comments and, like you said, anti-Semitic talks and comments and wording that comes out. And it's a sad state that that's what the Democrat leadership's doing on the House side. And we need to focus on getting problems solved. There's so many things that we need to work on. And need to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. The hate speech bill that you guys passed a while ago that started off to be non-anti-Semitism. You can't be doing any kind of anti-Semitism speech. In that sense, it kind of got broadened out to just hate speech in general, and they ended up twisting it and using it to say you can't say anything derogatory against the Muslim community. So it kind of got twisted on us there. But doesn't some of the comments that are being made kind of fall into that same category?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, basically, you're just looking at how can you twist so many bills out, and that's a good example of what they've basically said is, well, but don't point a finger at the bad comments or the bad mistakes we're doing. You're seeing that so often with misleading bill titles. I mean, that's one of the big push that they're going through, and they passed a bill last week that titled "Protecting Americans with Pre-Existing Conditions Act." But really, it had nothing to do with protecting people with pre-existing conditions. It was about promoting Washington D.C. and one-size-fits-all government health plan, and they did another one with H.R. 8, the so-called bipartisan background checks for gun ownership. But basically, what it did was it superseded state laws. It basically said that if you went hunting with a buddy, you couldn't lend them your shotgun without being in violation of the law, the way they put that out there. So there's so much out there. Save the Internet Act, which did nothing to save the Internet. I mean, they're coming up with lofty marketing titles, but at the end of the day, it's not making the country better off. I mean, we need to be focusing on so many things. Right now, the trade's an important issue from an agriculture standpoint and from the business community. And we've got the USMCA, the replacement for NAFTA, the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement.
How's that going so far?
It's all teed up right now. Really, we're waiting on Speaker Pelosi. What she has to do is indicate to the president and work with him to say, okay, present us your draft wording, because the responsibility right now is for the president to present a draft wording of the legislation. We will get 30 days to review it and to make recommendations back. By we, I mean the House Ways and Means Committee, of which I'm a member, and then the Senate Finance Committee. And then the president comes up with the final wording, presents that to us to vote up or down with no amendments. So we really want to get that wording right, and we need to get moving on this to get it done. And it's just an indication of just so many things that aren't happening that we need to focus on. And that's kind of a sad state of affairs right now, but that's kind of where we are.
Boy, it really is. We hear the rumors that Nancy Pelosi's, kind of things are out of her hands. The anarchy going on her side of the aisle, and her, in her house there with AOC and some of these others making these ridiculous comments and causing controversy. And it's really Nancy Pelosi trying to be the babysitter that's lost control of the House right now. Is that really the case right now where she can't even contain what's going on within her own party?
So there's a lot to be said for that. So she's got such a radical group as a core part of the Democrat Party that's actually, whether they're members of Congress or whether they're in their voting base and their donor base, that they're kind of saying they're directing and dictating what people are doing. They're actually outrunning ads in different Democrat members who might be considered mainstream or moderate Democrats, in attacking them for not being more liberal. And so a lot of the Democrats that I talk to that say they ran to be pro-business or ran to be, get things done, they're fearful of being primaried by a much more leftist Democrat in their primary. So they're actually voting more liberal than they campaigned on. And maybe that's just their excuse. Maybe they would do it anyway. But that's what they say, is they're worried about having a primary challenge from a more radical person.
How sad. I've seen some of the posts from some congresswomen that are Democrats, I believe down in Florida, that had come out and had talked about how the socialism talk really offends them, how they're capitalist, how they understand Donald Trump, and how they're like, the normal, average, middle-of-the-road Democrat, which is very few and hard to find nowadays in some senses. But there were some that tried to make a stand, and it sounds like they're getting shut out pretty quickly, which is really sad.
It really is. I mean, the Ways and Means Committee that I'm on is one of those committees where you tend to work together more closely. Some of the other committees are, just much more diverse, and you get attacked, and it's much more political pandering around that process. And unfortunately, we're just not able. We can sit down and talk. Republicans and Democrats can sit down and talk about, well, here's a rational solution. But it doesn't get brought forward by leadership in terms of saying, okay, we can bring that to the floor and vote on it, because they frankly don't want to vote on good common sense solutions.
With the political grandstanding going on right now, and with so many people trying to run for president right now on the Democrat side, so I'm sure that kind of bleeds into this as well, with them trying to create bills to make them look good running into the elections for next year. Is there any discussion as we start going in towards the end of the budget year and looking at the appropriations bills and doing anything of that sort as well?
Well, and that's kind of why it's so important that we focus on the USMCA now and get that passed and moving forward. Traditionally, Democrats opposed trade deals because of labor provisions. And, this is one where President Trump actually put in more pro-worker provisions into the USMCA than a typical Republican would have. And so that's why it's so important that we get Democrats to work together to have a bipartisan vote on this and move forward. Because starting in June, the Democrat candidates for president will start debating each other.
Sure.
Now they're out campaigning about, this is what I'm for, and these are the positive things I'll do. Starting in June, they'll start attacking each other. And then it'll be, if anybody brings up a rational idea, they'll be attacked by the other 20 some odd candidates, however many are in there. And so it'll make the process of getting good legislation passed much, much harder because of that presidential debate dialogue that they're going to have.
I sense a very frustrating session coming up in all these debates that's going to go on, because it doesn't sound like we're going to get anything substantial out of it, since it's going to be all just the political grandstanding. Although, Congressman, I think that we should present a bill and put it on the floor and have a garbage disposal awareness bill, so AOC might not be terrified every time she walks into her house. What do you think?
well, we can craft any kind of great wording we want to. Whatever kind of lofty bill we want to have. Helping Democrat incumbents get reelected or whatever else, and that those are all good sound bites that they want to do. And, unfortunately, I mean, you touched on it earlier. Is later in the year we're going to get into the real serious aspect of funding the government for the next fiscal year, and we come back in in September after Labor Day, we'll be dead into the process of appropriations and the debt ceiling discussion, and it's going to be very difficult to have a rational conversation about that with all the presidential candidates and all of their conversations, and without all of the political theater that they're wanting to go through for good sound bites.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's I think one of the most important things we should focus on right now is some of those budgetary and appropriations discussions. Last question before we let you go, Congressman Ron Estes from the 4th District here. But Rashida Tlaib and AOC and some of the comments that they have made and some of the controversy that is going on with some of the anti-Semitism that's been accused of, and even just the ridiculous "I'm terrified of my garbage disposal" thing in my house from AOC. Is there any talks up there of, number one, with some of the hate speech, of some type of slap on the wrist or repercussions because of these comments right now? And is there any talks from the Democrats, especially with the fringe like that, those rabble-rousers, of saying, hey, maybe we should primary these gals out come next year because they're giving us a bad rep?
Well, I don't know. There's so many of those inner city districts that are so heavily Democrat that they to some degree they like that their member of Congress stands up and speaks out, even if they're speaking out silly things for them. But they're getting in the newspaper, on TV. But it is sad, in the state that we talk about, so much anti-Semitism, so much prejudice and hate speech out there. And I'm not a big advocate that we need to punish somebody because they said something hateful. But if you get out there and you are in a leadership position, you need to make sure that you're working for the country and not working against other individuals, and allow people the freedom to do what they want.
Exactly. It's different from an average citizen saying something like this, which is dumb and how dare you do it, but whatever, you have the right to say that. But that to an elected official that's trying to represent people, that's unnecessary and uncalled for, I think. Congressman Ron Estes, we're out of time, my friend, but I really appreciate you coming on the show this morning. We love chatting with you, and we're going to get you on the midday slot here once we do the transition, and look forward to chatting with you again here soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey,
thank you. Good luck with your new show.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it very much right there. Congressman Ron Estes, we always appreciate the time that he gives to us. 8 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and take a break right here on The Voice of Reason. This is The Voice of Reason right here on KQAM.